Good morning, dear students. I hope you have enjoyed the reading that I gave you the last class, which is about the topic we are going to talk about, which is one-dimensional arrays in Java. If you have any questions, any comments during the lecture of today, please let me know. Write in the chat or raise your hand so that we can discuss about your comments or questions. Today I'm going to explain you what an array is. Then I'm going to do a practical exercise in our favorite tool, NetBeans. And then I will give you a learning activity so that you can put in practice the lesson of today during this week. So let's start. Have you thought what an array is? Probably with the lecture, with the reading, you have found that arrays are like containers, like those that we have in our real life, like trash containers, like a box, like a glass, like a cooking pot. All of those are containers and we can put things inside. But let me do some precisions and give you some important characteristics of arrays. First of all, you need to take into account that arrays are not single containers. Arrays are a set of containers. You may have an array with a set of only one container, but probably when you use arrays is because you need to store more than one thing. So for that reason, the arrays are a set of containers. Another thing is that in a container you can put things. For instance, in this case, I have 3 balls in this box. But for the concept of arrays, you cannot do this, because you need to take into account that each container of the array should only keep one element, only one element, not more than one, only one. Let me tell you other things with this example. Here we have an array which has 5 containers. And imagine that we want to put balls in those containers. So this is a set of containers to store a ball in each container. But take into account that the size of the ball should fit inside the container. Like in those 3 examples, we have a ball in each of the container and the ball can be put inside the container. So those are correct examples. But imagine that you have a light bulb and you want to put that light bulb in the 4th container. This is not correct for the concept of arrays, because in arrays you need to put elements of the same type. If you said that you wanted to store balls in this array, you cannot put a light bulb. So this is not correct. Another situation is that you have a biggest basketball ball. So that ball will not fit in the container and that cannot be stored in this array. So that is also incorrect. That's not possible for arrays, because remember that elements of an array should respect the size limit of the container. So this is a good example. In each container, here we have a ball that can be put inside the container. In this case, we have an array with a size of 5, but the best word to identify that size in the case of arrays is length. Here we have an array with a length of 5 containers, and each container has a ball that is good sized, for the container. Now let's to talk about the positions in arrays. The position is the location of the position in the array. So that position is indicated by means of an index, and that index is a number which should be an integer number and should be a positive number. So if you want to talk about the position of the array, you need to take into account that positions always start from 0. The first position in a container always will be the position 0. In this example, those are the containers of the array and those are the positions. Look at this. We have 5 containers, but their positions go from 0 to 4. Now, I will give you a recommendation to put a name of your arrays. So when you are coding and then you want to put the name, so it is highly recommended, it's not mandatory, but it's highly recommended that you use a plural word. For instance, if you want to put in an array the name of a person in each container, a good name for the array would be names of people, or also list of names. Remember that when you write names of variables or things in programming, you need to use words that are not separated. Here we don't have spaces between words. In this example, a good name would be like set of balls. If you want to access the content of one of the positions in this array, you need to use the name of the array and also the position of the array. If you want to know the content of this container, the example in programming would be like write the name of the array, in this case set of balls, and inside of square brackets you need to write the number of the position. So before this point we have talking about characteristics and what are arrays. So let me clarify why we talk about one-dimensional arrays. Those arrays are called also vectors, and they receive this name because each position in the array has a unique and only one index. If you want to access the position of an array, you need to indicate only one index. That's because the name of those arrays are one-dimensional arrays. In programming, those arrays are defined like this: a structured collection of components, often called array elements, that can be accessed individually by specifying the position of a component with a single index value. This is the key words here for talking about one-dimensional arrays: a single index value. So let me show you how can you create a one-dimensional array in Java. First of all, you need to specify the type of elements you will store in the array. Remember that in Java we have primitive types and other types that are used in programming of objects. But those types of elements, you should know what are those types, because that was one of our previous lessons in which we talk about those types. In this example, I'm using the type int, which remember that this type is for integer numbers. So the first thing in the structure of creating an array in Java is to write the type of the elements to store in each container of the array. After that, you need to put these square brackets, which indicate that this is a one-dimensional array. Then we need to write the name of the array, following the recommendation that I gave you before, a plural word. Then you need to use the assignation operator, which is like an equal operator. After that, it is necessary to indicate the keyword, which is new. That word means initialization. It means that in the memory of your computer, you are separating a space to store that array and then to refer to that array to store elements in each position. That is what the new keyword do in this case. After that, you need to repeat the type, which should be the same that we put at the beginning, and we need to put again the square brackets, and inside we need to indicate the length of the array. So here we have that we are creating an array with 5 positions, or with a length of 5 positions. So this line could be read like this. This is a one-dimensional array called numbers that allows to store numbers of type int and has a length of 5. The first position in this array will have the index 0, and the last position will have the index 4. So remember, like in this case, one thing is the length of the array and another thing is the index of the positions. Remember that in this case we have from 0 to 4 position, and the position 5 will not exist in this array. If you want to store elements in the array, you need to use the name of the array followed by square brackets, and inside the index of the position in which you want to store something. In this case, we are storing the number or the value 50 inside the position 0 of the numbers array. If you want to print the value that we store in that position, you can use our print line method that we have been using since we begin talking about Java, and inside we put the name of the array followed by again square brackets, and inside the position that we want to access. So in this case we are showing the value of the position 0 of the array numbers. So let's move on to a practical exercise in our lovely NetBeans. So let me change here. So we have here NetBeans. As you know, we can here create a new project. In categories, remember to select Java with and then Java application. Here put a name to your project, in this case one-dimensional array example. This is a good name for this project. Remember to check this option and finish. And then we are going to reproduce here the same example. Those comments can be removed, and remember to do the example here inside our main method. So we are going to create an array of type int This indicates that this is an array, then the name of the array, the assignation, the keyword new, again repeat the type, the square brackets, and inside the length of the array. So now we are going to store in the array numbers in its position 0 the number 50, and after that we write our instruction to write in the output that the content of that position using the print line method. Numbers in its position 0. If we store in the position 0 50 value, then this will print 50. So if we store our program and then we run the program, we will see the result here in the output of NetBeans. So here is the result. So we demonstrate with this example that we can create an array, store something in the array, and then print something from the array. So for the learning activity, I give you this case. You should develop a Java program by using the NetBeans IDE. The program should ask a number n, remember to use a scanner, and then with that it creates an array of size n. It means that the user will indicate the size of the array. After that, the program asks for typing each thing to store in the array. You can decide the type of thing to store in the array: numbers, text, characters. Remember to using the primitive types of Java. And finally, the program should be delivered in the space that I defined for you in the virtual classroom room. Thank you for your attention, dear students, and if you have any questions about this lesson, about this topic, please write me in the chat or write me an email, and I will be pleased to answer your questions. Have a nice day, and thank you for your attention.